What up, and what's happening? Pardon the noise and pardon the background. It's your man, Coach Breeze, broadcasting to you live from the front stretch of Dover Motor Speedway for this year's 2026 NASCAR Cup Series All-Star Race. I appreciate y'all for checking in, tapping in, and let's get to it. What up, and what's happening? It is your man, Coach Breeze, and I am finally back home from the NASCAR Cup Series All-Star Race at Dover Motor Speedway, and when I tell y'all we got some things to talk about in regards to this All-Star race and the format and all of that, we got some things to talk about. But before that, let's talk about the rest of the weekend. Let's get into it. First things first, the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race was Friday at Dover Motor Speedway. Now, typically, the Truck Series runs a lot of late evening and night races or Saturday afternoon races. However, Dover does not have lights, as I've previously mentioned before. Therefore, to run a race on a Friday, you have to run the race during the day, which I believe this race started at 4 or 5 p.m. Not necessarily conducive to huge crowds, given people are getting out of school and off of work and everything. 5 p.m. is a kind of hard start time for a weekday race. That being said, the Craftsman Truck Series race was what it was. Kyle Busch dominated the race. Kyle Busch wins the race. That's like Kyle Busch's 1 millionth NASCAR Series win. I mean, he has, I believe, the record for most wins in NASCAR's three series. And he's been, although Kyle Busch is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer when he's eligible for it, he is of late, last 2 or 3 years, kind of struggling in the Cup Series. So it's always good to see Kyle Busch, get out and win a race, even if it is in one of the lower NASCAR series. That being said, on a personal note, right, I want to shout out to Destiny Spurlock, who got her first start in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series after having, I believe, 3 ARCA starts. She made history as the first African-American woman to start a Truck Series race, or any race in NASCAR's top 3 series for that matter. That being said, she was also part of the first accident. Her day was very short-lived after about, I believe, 39 laps. She does have some work to do, and there's a lot of learning to go, into it until she's ready to be full-time and kind of take on that responsibility. But again, she did make history as such. Moving on, I don't want to be that guy, right? Because while you can shout out Destiny Spurlock for her historic accomplishments as far as being able to start a race, again, she didn't last very long. On the other side of the spectrum, you have, and let me just say this, right? Women belong in motorsports, right? Whether that is as pit crew members like Brianna Daniels, who was a tire changer in multiple series. Women are capable of being mechanics, and maybe one day we'll see a female crew chief or a spotter. We do have a handful of female drivers nowadays. And there are several who I feel like will become, Truck Series drivers, or O'Reilly Auto Parts Series drivers, maybe even Cup Series drivers one day. Isabella Robusto, Jade Abadesian. We'll see with Destiny Spurlock. Tony Breidinger, who has had opportunities in the Truck Series, and I believe O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. She's kind of had her own struggles. But I'm going to talk a second about Natalie Decker. I know Natalie Decker is not a household name, and the household name, to the household that she is a name in, she's a name for all the wrong reasons. I don't want to disrespect Natalie Decker on a personal level, because I don't have a personal problem with Natalie Decker. My issue with Natalie Decker is professional. For the second week in a row, Natalie Decker was black flagged, penalized, parked, however you want to, whatever verbiage you want to use, for not being able to maintain top speed in one of the top 3 series within NASCAR. Now, last week at Watkins Glen, she was black flagged for not being able to maintain minimum speed. I've heard since then that she was having electrical issues with her truck, which is why she couldn't maintain speed. Fine, right? It's a piece of machinery. Things go bad. It happens, right? Now, this week at Dover, and Dover is not an easy track. It's a shorter track, but it is by no means an easy track. It is concrete. It is slick. It is banked pretty much all the way around. It is not an easy track at all. Natalie Decker is black flagged yet again for not being able to maintain minimum speed. And then after she gets black flagged and penalized, she keys her radio. And I'm not going to include the audio. I don't know if I'm allowed to, but she keys the radio and is basically, as far as I can tell, it sounds as if she's crying in the truck during the race. And for those of you who know what a rage quit is, she basically rage quits. Like, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm gonna just quit, and y'all can have it for the rest of the season. I'm gonna just go drive O'Reilly, which the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series is a higher series in NASCAR. Again, I don't have a personal issue with Natalie Decker. I don't want to personally disrespect Natalie Decker, but it just seems like when it comes to NASCAR, she is way in over her head. Given that particular outburst, plus the performance that we've seen from Natalie Decker, I think at this point, she probably shouldn't drive anything higher than the ARCA series, which is at best the fourth tier series, kind of in the NASCAR pipeline, along with the Cars Tour, who is not owned by NASCAR. Or, you know, high limit sprint, whatever. There are other ways to go about it. But again, at best, she probably shouldn't drive anything more higher than an ARCA car at this point in the season. For the rest of this season. Whether her issue is physical and just not having the skill to do something, whether it is, a mental thing and she just kind of in over her head and just, too deep in at this point. I don't know what the issue is, and I'm not going to pretend to know it. But I can say that I don't believe that based on what we've seen, she should still be allowed to drive in one of the top 3 series in NASCAR, because she's just not able to do it at a very high level right now. She's not able to do it safely with the level of competition that she's doing it against. Long story short, male or female does not matter, but the fact that she's female just kind of makes it worse. To that point, I don't want people to get the wrong idea about women in motorsports because of Natalie Decker. Right? I saw someone say something to the effect of Natalie Decker is giving women a bad kind of model for the ones hoping to move up and advance. And my response to that was, she's not giving any of those women a bad example, because I think every last one of those women are more capable and mentally, physically, and just better than she is. What she is doing is giving the people who think women don't belong in motorsports a reason to think that. Right? Because she seems as if she just can't handle herself. Again, whether it's physical or mental, I don't know, and I'm not going to pretend to know. But for those people who, like myself, who look at women like, Isabella Robusto, Jade Abedisian, and other people in the pipeline as capable drivers, there are other people who look at it like, oh, well, what happens if you let them through? They're going to act like her. And I just think you open a Pandora's box to a bunch of bullshit that nobody needs to think or say. So I think we need to just kind of nix that whole thing and just move on from it. Moving on. Saturday, the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race. Now, let me be the first person to say, not only was I wrong, I think lots of us were wrong when it comes to Corey Day. Now, Corey Day is the driver of the HendrickCars.com Chevy number 17. If you watch the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, there are typically 2 cars that kind of look similar. One is the 88, usually driven by Rajah Caruth, but occasionally be driven by Kyle Larson, William Byron, and a few other people who have been in the car. But the 17 car is full-time. Corey Day is in that car. Corey Day is a rookie in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. This is really his first year really driving on pavement, asphalt, concrete, whatever. He grew up racing dirt, was seen by Kyle Larson and Jeff Gordon. They decided, hey, let's take this kid who's never driven on this surface and put him in this car. And so forth. Here we are. Now, the first few weeks of Corey Day's rookie season were very rough. I think in the first 4 races, maybe he might have wrecked about 6 people. Not saying it was on purpose, but he was just he was thrown into the deep end very early, and it was kind of clear he was still getting his bearings and was kind of unaware of, I don't want to say what he was doing, but he was just, not aware of his surroundings. You grow up driving a car that doesn't have fenders on it, and you get put in a car, a very fast car, very good car with fenders on it. Your spacing is kind of off. The car, whatever, it's just built different, the size is different, all of that. So the first few weeks he struggled. Since then, Corey Day has now won 2 races, including this past Saturday in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. So shout out to Corey Day, because whatever the case may be with Corey Day, we were all wrong. And good on Corey Day. Congratulations on your second win, Corey. My bad. But also, off of Corey Day and onto the second HendrickCars.com Chevy, which is this weekend at Dover, was driven by Rajah Caruth. I'm a Rajah Caruth fan. I've been a Rajah Caruth fan. Rajah Caruth, I am from Washington, D.C., so is Rajah. So when I look at Rajah, I see a young black kid from D.C. who is kind of living a dream that I had as a kid growing up in D.C. as a diehard NASCAR fan. So I will always and forever root for Rajah Caruth just for that reason. That being said, he had a very, very rough weekend. Or Saturday, I'll say. He qualified well, started up front. He ran up front for I believe, the first stage. To start the second stage, he restarts second on the front row, and going into turns 2 and 3, I believe it was, racing Jesse Love for first place, kind of gets a little loose, which I've talked about what some of these terms mean, but gets a little loose up high, kind of wrecks Jesse Love and almost spins himself out. Granted, he doesn't hit anything, but that alone lost him about, I believe, 12 spots. Come back, restart, and maybe 30, 40 laps later, if that, he's involved in another accident, very similar fashion. Again, doesn't hit anything, but he still spins the car out in almost an identical fashion. Rajah is then back to, I believe, the 20s after that. He ends up ultimately finishing, I believe, 14th, but he went from racing for the lead, having a car capable of a top 3, top 5 finish, to now finishing in the teens. And for someone like Rajah, who is, I don't know what his contract situation is, but he's probably racing for his NASCAR future, his NASCAR contract, NASCAR life, maybe. You can't take a car, the 88 car that is typically running up front with every other driver that's gotten in it, and then when you have an opportunity to run up front in it, you do things that you personally do things that take yourself out of that position. While I think Rajah is a good driver, when you see guys like Corey Day, Connor Zilic, Brent Cruz, some of these guys that are like jump in the car, way more experienced, maybe just more naturally talented, and I kind of fast track through the process. Then you have a guy like Rajah, who's a more traditional prospect. His leash is going to probably be a little bit shorter just because of all those other guys he's being measured up against. So I don't want that to hurt Rajah long term, but you cannot make those mistakes. Everybody gets a little bit of grace, but you cannot take a top 5, top 3 car and push it so hard because you want it so badly. I get it, but then take yourself out of that position, right? So, I'm glad he was able to still kind of work his way back up. I think, like I said, finished 13th or 14th, something like that. But Rajah Caruth probably should have had a top 5 finish today. So, or I said today, I'm sorry, Saturday. It's Monday, and I am tired. My allergies have been on 1,000. You can probably see it in my eyes. So I'm trying to push through this, but just bear with me. But yeah, man, rough day for Rajah. But shout out to Corey Day. Yeah, on a Sunday. Now Sunday is what I really, really want to talk about, because while the Truck Series race on Friday and the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race on Saturday were both points races for those series, Sunday was supposed to be the NASCAR Cup Series All-Star Race, which is you're racing for $1 million. There are no points in this. This is strictly for money. The problem, as I've already stated before in other videos, is that NASCAR tried to fix the All-Star Race when it wasn't broken. Case in point with this race Sunday. What's the best way to put it? The racing on track was actually pretty decent. I would think that if that was a points race, granted, if it was a points race, the drivers may have raced a little differently. You wouldn't have the field being inverted the way the All-Star Race does. But all in all, I think the racing that we saw on Sunday was good racing. But the format of the All-Star Race was just god awful. You had the race broken down. First of all, the normal points race at Dover has been 400 laps. They took 50 off of it and said, let's run an All-Star Race, a 350-lap All-Star Race in the middle of the afternoon on a Sunday because, again, Dover doesn't have lights. So, that already kind of made it not feel like an All-Star Race. You have it broken down into 3 segments, right? But I believe 19 or 20 cars were already locked into the third segment when they started the first segment. So essentially, they didn't have to run the first 2 stages, but they had to run the first 2 segments. It's like, stages, whatever they broke it into. They were locked into the last one, but still had to run the first 2. But, oh, by the way, if you happen to wreck in one of the first 2 segments, you could have just pulled off track and fix your car and come back in the third one. It didn't make sense. Now you have a car that doesn't have as much wear and tear on it. You have theoretically more tires at your disposal if you can happen to, kind of catch a caution. I don't know how they were doing the lap counting and everything. It was so it just didn't make sense. It didn't make sense. And then I was at the race, right? So I don't know how it looked on TV, but as someone who was at the race, right, there's always a fan vote to vote one of the drivers in who's not locked into the field, right? I don't think I know it was Daniel Suarez in the 7 car this week that was voted in. However, being at the race, I don't recall them ever announcing that at the racetrack. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I don't recall hearing it or seeing it. I don't know what drivers transferred in. And also, because of making the drivers who were locked into the final segment start the first 2 segments, you had drivers who would have otherwise been locked in, such as Chris Buescher, Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott, Bubba Wallace, a list of guys, I believe 9 different cars who would have otherwise been locked into the final stage were involved in accidents before halfway through the second stage. So you get guys that are locked in, now not able to race. I think Chase Elliott and maybe a few other them didn't come back out. There were a handful of them, Ryan Blaney and Kyle Larson, and maybe one more who actually did come back out after the end of the second stage. I'm like, but it's just way too much going on. Now, I made a video last week saying the All-Star race was not broken, but NASCAR decided it needed to be fixed. Well, now NASCAR, you have to fix the problem that you created, because Dover deserves a points race. NASCAR should probably have an All-Star race. The two should never mix. The All-Star race belongs in Charlotte. That is where it needs to be. And you need to simplify the All-Star format from eligibility, racing. You can have an open where the cars who are not locked in are racing to get into the All-Star race, where the already locked in cars do not participate, because why would you? There are ways to fix the All-Star race, but what they did yesterday at Dover cannot happen again. The format cannot happen again. The location being an all-star race cannot happen again. I think if yesterday at Dover was a points race, I think it would have been a damn good race. Not great, not amazing, but it would have been a good race. It would not have been bad, especially for what we've seen on short tracks in this next-gen car. I think the racing was good, but the format was terrible. The format was god-awful. It's Dover. It's always hot as hell at Dover, which makes it slick and everything, which helps the racing, I think. I feel like it helps the racing when done correctly. But the format for the All-Star race was just god-awful. And NASCAR is getting killed on social media for the format. I don't see anybody knocking the racing, but what happens is that people then blame the track, which is how Dover lost the points race in the first place, and how many other tracks have lost the second date. People blame the cars, which the car is part of the problem, but it wasn't yesterday. Yesterday, the car was not the problem. The format was. So NASCAR, if you hear it, Steve O'Donnell, if you're listening, hear me out. Probably not, I know. Fix it. Change it back to what it was. You've brought the chase back. You've brought other things back. We'll work on the clash later. But put the All-Star race back at Charlotte the week before the Coke 600 and make it an All-Star event. Do other things. Yes, you can bring back the pit. Well, they had it, but make the pit road competition a bigger deal. Have a burnout competition or donut competition. I don't know what you can do to make it more of an event. Run it on Saturday night under the lights at a track that has lights. I don't have the formula. I don't have everything, but I know there are things you can do as NASCAR to fix this event and not do away with it. Also, give Dover its points race back. I was told that during the television broadcast that Mike Joy said that Dover will be on the schedule for next season. Great. Do not make it an all-star race. Please. I beg of you. We'll figure out other things along the way, but the all-star race as constructed as of yesterday cannot happen again. Okay? Now, as I just told y'all, I'm going through it right now. It's hot. I'm tired and my allergies are going crazy. So I'm finna go take care of that. I'm pretty sure Charlotte's gonna be on fire next Sunday for Memorial Day, NASCAR, all of that. Indy 500 is coming up. This is like the best weekend in motorsports. So yeah, if you are just getting into NASCAR, if you've been in NASCAR, this is gonna be a great weekend for us, right? But until then, I will see you I will see y'all when I see y'all. I gotta go, man. Until next time, gone.